All right, so I texted you yesterday that I sent you a book, and I've got a copy of it here. The guy that I've been doing podcasts with recently recommended it to me. Here you can see the cover of it right here. It's called "How to Talk to Your Cat About Gun Safety and Abstinence and Drugs, Satanism, and Other Dangers That Threaten Their 9 Lives."
That's hilarious.
It's pretty funny. I've read a couple pages of it so far. I figured it was a good coffee table book. And since you're a cat guy, I figured you'd get a kick out of that one.
Fuck yeah.
How to talk to your cat about gun safety. People are fucking hilarious. They come up with some great ideas for books. It's funny. Like weirdly, when I went to look it up on Amazon to buy it, I couldn't remember the whole like name, and I was typing it in, and like it kicked me to an AI that was like, "Oh, that's a great idea for a book." I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, why does Amazon have an AI that's answering questions for me? Like, this is just completely unnecessary." I don't know what the fucking deal is. Like, every company all of a sudden has to have their own AI.
Yeah, and it's trying to convince you to write a book instead of buy one.
Makes no sense whatsoever. It's like if I had a question about writing a book, I'd ask a different AI or a person. Like I don't need Amazon. Like I'm here to shop. I don't need your recommendations on shit. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right, let's roll. Uh-oh. I'm not getting music. I don't know if you can hear the music or not.
I can hear it.
You can hear it. Well, maybe it'll show up on the deal. What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho. I am the one-armed madman. And back with us today, we've got Nolan 5150. And hey, get this, we're actually recording this time. We did a podcast a couple weeks ago that I fucked up on in multiple different occasions. We forgot to record it at first, and then I downloaded the episode that we did record wrong, so wasn't able to put it out. And that's not the first fucking podcast that we've recorded and not posted. It's probably third or fourth.
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. It's I fucked up because I'm just so used to doing it. We have just this fucked up way of doing podcasts that doesn't need to be explained again. So I'm just like so used to doing it the other way that I completely forgot that like I had to do it this way. And just fucked it up on my end royally. So how's life treating you? How we doing?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Still a lot of work stress. Trying to whip my crew into shape. Still kind of in limbo. I've been shop foreman for well over a year now, and at this point in time, I'm acting service manager. I mean, anybody that calls or anybody that wants to talk to the service manager gets sent to me. So, I mean, I feel like it's inevitable sooner or later.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, should be good. It's I mean, not that it matters. I feel like we talked about it a little bit, but
yeah, but it was off air apparently.
Yeah. So, but eventually running a service department, being a service manager, is just kind of like the natural progression of a career. If your goal is to just become, a decent tech and then just kind of survive, then I feel like you're not really, doing enough or you don't have any ambition. So my game plan, my idea was to just, absorb as much as I could, get as good as I could with everything. And obviously, depending on the situation and where I was at and whatnot, it's usually the way it goes. I end up getting put into a position like this sooner than I would particularly like, but that's the way life goes a lot of the time. So just gotta kind of take the reins and run with it.
So if this happens, would you end up being like in an office more and not working on bikes as much?
Not the way I would like it. I mean, it just kind of depends on my staffing at the time, and it's just so difficult in this area because it's so seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
The industry, the riding season, so it's
so you
so
could be
seasonal.
doing like more work on bikes in the winter, or I mean in the winter, and then as it gets busy in the summer, you would do less, or would it be the opposite way around?
Probably more the opposite, but it's just kind of a case by case basis. There's customers that I've dealt with for the years I was just strictly a technician and everything that only want me working on their bikes. So there's some people that stuff's gonna happen. Their bikes are gonna come in, and I'm gonna do that. But in the summer, especially, the way I've kind of envisioned it is because most of the time when we're rocking and rolling in the summer, we'll have, maybe 5 to 10 bikes waiting at the door before we are even open. So the way I kind of envision it going is I'll probably get there in the morning and kind of help out on the front desk, get bikes checked in, get my guys rolling on some jobs and stuff, and then try to get just back up my service advisor until it's to a point where he can handle it solo, and we've got enough bikes checked in that I can jump back in the shop and just start turning wrenches and getting some work done.
Yeah,
I'm going to be kind of just bouncing wherever, all over.
I worked at a shop when I was in high school. It was an automotive shop. It wasn't a bike shop. But the guy that owned the shop was a GM master tech and like a very, very good mechanic, probably the best mechanic I've ever met in my life. There's 2 guys that I could put in that category. But anyways, he like opened the shop with the full intention of like being one of the mechanics. And as the shop got busier, he would just spend less and less time in the shop. It was, more time on the phone, more time in the office, running the service department. Like, and he ended up having to like hire a service manager as well. We had this service manager who was he was a fucking trip. Like he did like a mail order bride from Thailand or something like that. And then she like brought her son over with him. And turned out the son was her husband. And as soon as she was capable, she split from him and took all of his money.
Damn.
We were all telling him, like, dude, this is a scam. You're being scammed. Oh, no, I'm not being scammed. We're like, dude, you're fucking 60 years old and she's 25. It's a fucking scam.
She loves me.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh, man.
But
the similarities are very scary with my past relationship.
But that's how it worked out for my bosses. He had a lot of people that wanted him specifically to work on their vehicle. And like it turned out, like we had a great mechanic. We had a couple good mechanics, but one of them was really good. He was a Mexican guy from Mexico. And dude was just an animal. He could do a heater core in a Chevy like pickup, like I had like that 88 pickup that I had. He could do a heater core in one of those things in like 2 hours. Flat time on those was like 8. Yeah, dude was an animal. Like I remember one time, I never thought about doing this before, but like he was doing a head gasket on a unibody car, and instead of like pulling everything apart from the top and like pulling the engine out, because you couldn't really get to the head gasket very easily, he just dropped the entire unibody on it and then lifted the body of the car up. And I was just like, damn, dude, I never would have thought of doing that. And it's one of those things where if you're not working on a lift, you like don't see things in that way, essentially. But I remember seeing him do that. I was like, damn, that's fucking smart.
Yeah. And it eventually would probably kind of progress to that, but like I said, with it being so seasonal, it's really hard to keep guys on full time. So guys come in seasonally, and then we got to have people that we can bring back. So me getting like full time stuck in the office doing that shit probably never going to happen. And in my opinion, that's not the way it ever should be. And we're not big enough, I think, to be able to do that. And I like being way more hands-on in the shop and with the guys, and I want I told them all, I'm like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that, but I have a shit ton of experience and knowledge, and I'm pretty fucking damn good at what I do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be short. I'm probably, I like to joke around and shit, but when it comes time to work, I'm going to be short and to the point. And my goal here is not to put you guys down, but to level you all up. And if you're smart, you're going to listen, you're going to watch, and you're going to do what I tell you to do.
Yeah. We had the same problem in the bar that I worked in San Francisco, where it was highly seasonal, to where it was like really busy from May through October. And then like November, December, there was a couple of big weekends with holidays, and, spring break, you would get a little bit, but essentially like November through March was pretty slow. So we'd have like, a big staff of bartenders and servers throughout the year. And the people who had seniority would get the good shifts during the slow time, and the newer people wouldn't, and their hours would get cut and they wouldn't make as much money. So a lot of them would end up quitting. So like every year, as soon as the busy season would roll around, like we would have to restaff. And like, if you don't stay long enough, you don't get the seniority to get the good shifts in the slow time. And for me, like I got good shifts in the slow time, and like I didn't really suffer all that much. Like I made better money during the busy time of the year, but sometimes I would actually do better in the slower times of the years because we wouldn't have enough business to like have a third bartender for the day. Like typically we would, in the busy season, you would have an opener, a mid, and a closer. So like I would open on the weekends and I would have to share tips with the mid as soon as they came in. And like that can be good or bad depending on how busy it is, And so for me, sometimes on a slower weekend, there would only be two bartenders on, and I would make more money on that day because even slower times of the years, there's still football games, like people are still coming in. So sometimes I would make more money on those days. And then like also we had this tiki bar in the back, and it had like, I don't know, probably, I can't remember, probably like 12 tables in the whole bar, couple 8 tops, couple 4 tops, and in the busy season, you would have a bartender and a server back there. And then in the slow times, they wouldn't have a server on. So it would just be a bartender that would handle the bar and all those tables. So sometimes you'd walk out of there with $200-300, depending on how busy it was. And it could be more, you could make more money a lot of times working that shift than the shift where you're like sharing the entire fucking room with a server. And a lot of times, like, you wouldn't get people sitting at the bar, at the tiki bar. They would want to be at one of the tables that had a, window that was looking out over Alcatraz. So it was a weird thing because like I said, if you didn't have the seniority, you didn't get the shifts. And if you didn't stay to get the seniority, like you were just kind of screwed. So it was always like a hiring mess every year as soon as it got busy again. And it was always a pain in the ass to find good people.
Yeah. That seems to have never changed.
No. So what did you think about that Harley Davidson Cafe Racer concept bike?
Dude, that thing looked sick. That was a Revolution Max engine, right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. That would be fun to ride, man. You said they only built one of them?
Yeah. The guy that like built it, I saw that video that I watched, did an interview with him, and he did say that it was kind of a feeler gauge, that they wanted to throw it out there. They were going to take it around to different events all throughout the year, Sturgis, other big events, and they were going to kind of see what type of, interest that draw, and
see what the energy
guy was
is,
like, yeah. And the guy was like, anybody watching this, go onto our Instagram and tell us that you want this bike. And, if we get enough interest in it, we'll make it.
Dude, they need something like that. We just had one come in. It's called Street 750.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the concept is what Harley still needs. Supposedly they're bringing in, I think it's called the Sprint. I can't remember what CCs it is, but it's big in the international markets. But that's one of the huge gaps. Harley needs a true small enough, manageable CC, smaller frame, lighter bike for entry level riders and women.
Yeah.
And they really don't have. They have the Nightster right now, but even that, it's a 950 or 975, and it's just, I don't know, man. That I like the look of that bike. It looks really cool. But that Street 750, like the idea, you can see what the idea is, and they put something out that kind of fits, like checks all the boxes, but it's fucking ugly. It's hideous.
Yeah, that's a problem, And this is something we talked about on the last unrecorded podcast, is that like I went on to Honda's website and pulled up, they've got like 3 bikes that are considered like entry level bikes, maybe even more. I don't remember. It's been a couple weeks since then, but like they've got 3 decent bikes, excluding like the Grom and they're really true like entry level, that are like half the price of the cheapest Harley Davidson. And that's like a market that you've got to capitalize on, And
Yeah.
it's one of these things where like you have to like get people on their first bike, because like a lot of times the first bike that you buy is going to end up being your brand for life, as long as you like the bike,
Yeah.
It doesn't happen so much with dirt bikes, because like dirt bikes, essentially they're all very similar and pretty equivalent. And a lot of times like people just end up going to the shop that's going to give them the best deal, and whatever, brand that shop carries is going to be the brand that they go with. And that's different for street bikes, because there's so many different bikes that aren't really the same. Like your R6 and your Gixxer 600 are going to be fairly similar. Like those are fairly like equivalent substitutes to each other. And you could kind of see somebody going like, oh, well, I have a good relationship with this shop, they're going to give me a better deal on my 600 than this shop is. But when it comes to like cruisers, cafe racers, entry level bikes, like there's a lot of different options out there that are not necessarily like straight up substitutes. It's not like,
Yeah.
your different brands of ketchup or something like that. Like you've got a ketchup and a mustard and a mayo that are just completely different condiments and have different, faults. They have different, points of it that like make them successful. And like you want to have something that draws a crowd of, especially with like the economy that we're in right now. Like there's very few people out there that have like the ability to own a $30,000 motorcycle when they're in their 20s or 30s. Like this is something that's set up for people in their 50s, their 60s, and like that wasn't always the case when it came to Harley. Like when, in the 70s and the 60s, you could be an electrician or a plumber and own like the top Harley that they put out, and it wouldn't be a problem. But like we don't live in that market today. Normal people with normal jobs like just don't have the capability to buy a fucking bike that cost more than a car or a truck did back then. It's just a different market altogether. So like I think it's really important, and this is why I like what Triumph and Ducati is doing. Like Triumph is making these dirt bikes, now, and like I really think that they're kind of selling themselves short. Like Triumph has a 250 and a 450 right now. Well, you need to get people onto bikes when they're kids. You got to have like a small 2-stroke. You got to have a 50, a 65, an 80, even a 125. So you can get people young, and build that relationship with that shop, so that like they're going to have an incentive to keep on that brand for a long period of time. And like, I feel like Harley is missing that aspect, to where like they've got the top level bike, but they don't have the entry level. So they're like not capable of, generating a relationship with younger people that are going to stick to the brand for 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, potentially. I think there could be an aspect with with some of the older people having a lot less children and everything, because I can never remember. What are we, millennials? Technically, are we at the end?
Yeah,
The
we're a
ass
high
end of
level
millennials.
millennials.
So a lot of millennials, if I remember correctly, aren't having children up until like now when they're in their late 30s,
40.
Early 40s. So there's that huge gap. Like what is like statistically, me and you should already have 20-year-old kids running around
Sure.
and potentially grandparents. So there's, I think a lot of that has a big effect on especially this type of market.
Yeah,
Because
my mom was
and also
grandmother
in my
at my
eyes,
age.
you know, the I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I would say my mom was a grandmother at my age.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy, right?
Yeah.
So then there's that generational gap, and like with the brand and the shop, like you were saying, I think a lot of it could have to do with that lack of children and everything, and the older people like me and you that could and should be riding around on, you know, maybe not top shelf, but like top tier expensive bikes and stuff like that. And then our children should be about the age to where we're handing down our Harley Davidsons to them.
Yeah.
And they're not
Yeah,
having
that's a
to
good
buy
point.
one.
Yeah. And
You
like,
know?
look at you for an example. You've had street bikes for what, 20 years now?
Yeah.
And you didn't get into Harleys until you were 40. And
Yeah.
it like had to do a lot with like the style of bike you were looking for as a younger person. You were looking for something fast and maneuverable and fun rather than a cruiser.
Thin and sexy.
Yeah, exactly. You wanted something you could throw a chick on the back of and like show off and like have fun and go fast. And like, that's a market that Harley does not have a foothold in whatsoever. And like, who's to say if you would have, like, maybe you always had it in your mind that like, okay, I've got these bikes now, but when I get older, I'm going to want a cruiser of some sort, you know? But like, who's to say that that ever happens if you don't start working at a Harley dealership and get like a deal on a good bike? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that thought exactly went through my mind. Probably a solid like 15 years ago or something when I was at my old dealership and I started seeing some Harleys and stuff, and that exact thought was like, well, you know, this is what I like right now. This is what I want. But I can 100% see myself getting a little older and getting into, I didn't have it like set in my mind that it was going to be a Harley Davidson, but the whole like Harley brand and vibe and people and everything, I could see some attraction, but also, but it's like sport bike people, man. I can see the attraction, but then you meet a lot of these idiots that are running around on whatever. And it's just a lot of humans are morons, but
imagine if like Harley had a Ducati Monster substitute or like something like my Buell when you were 20 and you start working in your first bike shop and you're looking to get a bike and make, you know, like you said, the vibe of Harley is cool. It's leather. It's fucking biker gangs. Badass. You know what I mean? It's a different vibe altogether than like the sport bike vibe. So imagine you're working in the shop and you're deciding what type of bike you want, and somebody brings in, you know, that cafe racer that, you know, that we're talking about, that concept bike, and you work on it and you ride it and you go, man, this thing is fucking badass. And like, maybe it's not as fast as a Gixxer, but like it's fast enough. And I like the vibe. I like the company. I like the fact that it's made in America rather than Japanese. And like the sound, like to me, like the sound of a V-twin Harley is just so much cooler than like a Gixxer. You know what I mean? Like, I remember the first time I saw a Buell in San Francisco, one of them like pulled up next to me or something, and I like hear it before I see it. And I'm like, oh, here's, you know, comes a Harley. And then I look at it and I go, whoa, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? And it's got the look, it's got the cool plastics. And it might have been this exact bike that I saw, you know, because the guy lived in San Francisco. Who knows how many of them are really running around San Francisco at that point? Not very many, right? Like there's only a handful of them out there. And so like you see something that you didn't know really existed, and all of a sudden your mind is like, because I never had the desire to have like a Gixxer or anything like that. To me, it's too dangerous. It was too much. And knowing me, like, I don't need that fucking, I don't need that danger in my life. I'm already like, accident prone enough. And I know my abilities on a bike. And if I have a bike like that, I'm going to ride it fast. There's just no way around it. You know what I mean? And I look at something like this and it's like, okay, well, this is not quite as fast. It's not going to put me in so much danger. It's got the cool factor coming out the fucking ears. And to me, like, this bike is so much cooler than a Gixxer 600. You know what I mean? And to me, like, with my style, that Cafe Racer is so much fucking cooler than a Gixxer 600. I just, to me, it would have automatically appealed to me more than a sport bike, more than an entry level Honda. Like, just right off the bat, there would have been no comparison whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I am glad that I at least got to provide you with one Gixxer experience.
Yeah. No, that was a great experience. We had a great ride, man. Like, I had a blast on that thing. I had so much fun. The bike is so cool. The bubble, I had never experienced the bubble before. I remember getting on the freeway and I looked down and I was doing 120 miles an hour. It's like, holy shit. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm doing 60 right now. And like, that bike is kind of like driving a sports car to where the bike doesn't even feel right until you're doing 100 miles an hour, But after like riding it, it was like, okay, this bike is made for a track. It's not made to like drive around San Francisco slow. It's not made to like do the speed limit on the freeway. And you're not really going to get the full experience of the bike unless you get it on the track. And if you want to get the full experience out of the bike on the street, you're looking at going to jail. So like, it's cool.
Or
And
you're
at
dying.
that point, like, I didn't have my Buell yet. I was still riding my DRZ 400. And I was kind of thinking that I wanted a street bike because like there's problems with my DRZ on the street. Like, the main problem for me was it didn't have a reserve. I mean, it had a reserve, but it didn't have a fuel light on it. So I kept running the thing out of gas on the freeway. And that was just terrifying. Like, I was going to fucking die. But also, like, on the freeway, it was not comfortable to ride at all. Like, the front fender acts like a sail and the bike just wants to lift up on you all the time. You're just getting hammered with wind. And like, it was fun to ride on the streets, at 50 miles an hour or 40 miles. Yeah. Like, it swerving through traffic. Like, there's nothing better than the Z on that. But once you get it on the freeway, it was very uncomfortable, And like, I was kind of thinking I wanted to get a street, but I had no idea what I wanted to get. And like I said, like, riding that bike was so much fun. Like, I had a blast. But like, after thinking about it and looking at this bike, it was like, I don't need that in my life. It's just going to kill me.
Totally
it's
right.
going to kill me. I'll die on that bike because I'll go out and do something stupid. Like, I loved going to Stinson Beach, and you've never done that ride, but like, someday we have to do that ride. It's such a cool ride. Like, you go from downtown San Francisco out to Stinson Beach. It takes an hour. It's a great street bike riding road, and I would let it rip on that road, And if I had that 600, fuck, man, it just would have been too dangerous for me. And at that point, I had the sensibility to know that it was too dangerous for me. I'd ridden enough dirt bikes. I've ridden on the street enough. It was just like, I don't want to dip my foot into that pool.
A little wisdom, a little responsible
little
wisdom.
Little wisdom at that point. I wasn't quite as nuts as that. At 18, if I ride that bike, I'm buying one. You know what I mean? Because I'm fucking out of control. I don't have the ability to like think ahead and go, well, this is what's going to happen if I get this bike. I think I'm invincible, and even at 30, I thought I was invincible, but more so when I was 18 and 20. And like, it just, for me, like, something like this was much better. It was a better fit. Like, it was safer. It was cooler to me. And like, I wish that Harley still had that option. And hopefully something like that. And the cool thing about like that bike is if they do start making it and it sells well, like, it's still not going to be a cheap bike. It's not. Yeah. But maybe they go, okay, well, this is something that like we're going to sell a lot of. And if we do a line of these bikes. We can make a more expensive one. We can make a couple cheaper ones. We can have this as the base model, kind of, and it would open up a different, like a completely different realm of possibilities for younger people to like get into the brand.
Yeah. Yep. I really hope that, I mean, that's a real good kind of like peak. I hope it actually happens. It makes me hopeful that they even built that one. So
exactly.
I hope they're headed. They at least got their heads in the right mindset.
I think
they're
the
exploring.
new CEO at least has to realize that like the live wire was a horrible investment. And that like that was kind of their idea for the bike that we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna younger people are gonna like the electric, and it's a cooler, sleeker, kind of more of a sporty model. But like the problem with that bike is it was electric, and they weren't appealing to younger people on it. Like they were appealing to liberals that hate the brand regardless. And it just was never gonna work. And I'm glad that they've discontinued it. And like, I do have some confidence in the new CEO. I really wish that like they would have put somebody that was like a true biker in charge of the company. Like that video that I watched, they did an interview with this woman whose last name was, Davidson. Like she was part of the family, and she was all hyped up on the bike, and it's like, couldn't we have found somebody within the company that like truly loved the brand, was truly a part of the brand, that like understood, had been working there for 30 years and kind of understood the company and maybe had a better outlook on the future, instead of like bringing some guy in. And like I said, I do have some confidence in this new guy because like he was the CEO of Top Golf, and like he kind of made driving ranges cool for younger people. And like that's something that could be easily like swapped over to Harley Davidson. So like I don't have any doubt that this guy's smart. I don't have any doubt that Johann Zeitz was smart. I just think he was a fucking douchebag. I think he was way too into that. I think he was just way too into ESG, and he was too liberal for the brand, and like just had a bad vision for the company. Like that doesn't mean he's not smart. It just means he's stupid. You can be a very smart, stupid person and like take something in the wrong direction for the wrong reasons because you have these like baked in biases that this is where, the world is going, when clearly it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know, man. Hopefully it'll come around, but at the same time with the price wise, like that little cafe thing and with a Revolution Max in it already,
that's a cool engine, right?
It is a very cool engine. It's not your typical Harley, high torque muscle V twin. It's way more Japanese leaning, higher RPMs and everything, and it's a little bit quieter. It doesn't have that big
bike didn't sound quiet when they started it up. It had a Krapovich mufflers on it. It sounded good. And it's hard to like really hear what a bike sounds like over the internet because it's, phone speakers and everything like that. But like that bike sounded mean.
That's so when the Revolution Max was in the middleweight powertrain class, and it was a classic Sportster engine, and then the Revolution Max. And beginning of the class, you get split half and half. Half the class is on the Rev Max, half the class is on the Sportster. And the Revolution Max, I mean, I believe all the hardware is metric, and it's overhead cams. It's right up my alley of what I already knew and was comfortable with. So I did the smart thing, and I went with the Sportster engine first. So if I was going to struggle and everything, I was going to get it out of the way. And I did a little bit because I had never been into... I really hadn't been into any of the Harley engines very deep at all. So that was a little more difficult, got through it, and then it's like 2 days and then 2 days, and then we switch. We just split cases and then put them back together, make sure it rotates and shifts. and then got into the Revolution Max, and I was the first one back together and just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. I'm like, this
those
is
are
easy.
fun. You know, I worked on I only ever rebuilt a top end on one 4-stroke dirt bike, and it was a cool experience. You know, I had no idea what I was doing because I was used to rebuilding 125s, which are, you know, a half an hour, 45 minutes. Once you get good at it, like they're so easy to do. And, you know, you add a couple cams and a chain into it and things get a little bit different.
Shit gets weird.
Yeah, starts to get weird. You got to, you know, have that chain in the right place, and you got to have the cams lined up right. And all, you know, at that point, like, you didn't have YouTube videos or anything like that. All you had was an instruction manual that wasn't very good, but it was still a cool experience to rebuild that bike, you know. And I had torn truck engines apart before, but, you know, like, once you kind of get into that, it's like, oh, this is just a single cylinder truck engine, you know, or a 350 with one cylinder. It's not that much different. It's still an engine, you know. It's fucking cool. Those, man, dirt bikes are so badass. Like, the motors on dirt bikes are just so badass. Like,
Dude,
I gotta remember, and so they rev so high on these 4-strokes. They're just a badass piece of engineering.
I gotta remember the name of it. Jeremy McGrath. I think he's the main force behind it, but it's some new little like documentary movie coming out about like the old days of dirt bike, motocross and shit. I just watched one of Pastrana's on his channel 199 YouTube channel. They just did they were talking a little bit about it, but it looked badass.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember the name of it.
I think that, dude, like in motocross and like today, 450s are a problem. They're so fast now. Like, these bikes are they have so much power. They're so fast. And like, you get a lot of really good guys on 250s that jump onto the 450 and are just immediately slower. And like, there's a couple reasons for it. One is the weight. You know, it's a heavier bike, but two is like the crank. These things have got such a big crank on them. They've got so much like rotating mass in the engine that the bike just wants to push through everything. So you get a lot of these guys who are like really good on the 250 and then jump on the 450 and just struggle. But you've got a few guys who get off the 250 and are just able to like dominate on a 450. So it's hard to like get anybody, like, the majority of riders just aren't good enough to be able to ride a 450 that way. And like, I really think if they would downgrade them all to 350s, it would be a much more competitive class, because a 350 is just a 250 with a bigger piston in it. So you don't deal with the rotating mass problem. You don't have the same weight issues. Like, the bike feels lighter, even though it's not much lighter. 450 is not that much heavier than a 250. It's like 15, 20 pounds, something like that. It's not that much. You shouldn't notice the weight that much. It's the way that the engine is why the bike feels so much heavier. So like, I really think that like, you would have less, it would be a more competitive class. So like, you would have less guys at the top that are just dominating, and more guys like mid through the back of the pack that are closer to the top guys.
Yeah. It's kind of a lot like a 600 versus like 1,000. I mean, you want to talk about it on the track. It's a lot of bike. The amount of human beings that can, I mean, there's not very many human beings that can ride a 600 to its full potential.
Oh yeah.
Let alone a 1,000.
And I mean, that's kind of why they're building 400s now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's more of like an entry level too. But, I would laugh. I'd always tell guys, they'd talk shit, be like, oh yeah, you need to step up and get a leader bike. I'm like, dude, on the street, I don't even need a 600. So you're an idiot.
A lot of times it's funner to be able to push a bike rather than like have to be timid over it, you know? Like, I've never ridden a 1,000, but like, with as much power as that 600 has, like, dude, a 1,000 must be just kind of hard to ride. And
it
like,
is.
you know, I took my little brother to like go-kart racing a while back, and we did like the first time we went to this place that had like gas-powered go-karts, and they had like an age limit to where like you couldn't ride the faster go-karts until you were a certain age. So we're stuck on these like little go-karts with governors on them. And like I'm wide open on these things. You know what I mean? And like I'm just destroying all of these little kids on these, governed go-karts because like I know what I'm doing. Like I know how to set up a turn. I know what an apex is. I know how to like leave it wide open and kind of like feather the brake at the same time to keep the revs up and not like get down on power midway through your apex, midway through the turn. And so like I'm dominating these guys by like 4 or 5 seconds a lap sometimes, these little kids. And the next time we go to this newer track that they just built, and they were electric carts and they didn't have an age limit. So the 12-year-old brother is allowed to ride in the adult cars, and he's within like 2 seconds of me, and I'm kind of telling him like, dude, like you're within 2 seconds of me because of the power to weight ratio. It's not because you know what you're doing. Like if you knew what you were doing, you would be way out ahead of me because like it's harder sometimes to ride these lower level cars. You have to like use more technique than power. And if you can be wide open, it's a lot of times like better to like learn technique than just like being lazy and using the throttle to bail you out.
Yep.
Yep. So what did you think about the recent assassination attempt?
Oh man, I haven't seen or heard a whole too much about it. I've just caught little snippets here and there.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like I've heard enough to really have much of an opinion.
That's fair.
Seen some of the guy. I heard something about some like random. Was it a Twitter account that had some weird like Pepe image in a tux that was
lots
just
of weird shit.
Dude's name.
Lots of weird shit. We dug into it in the last episode, so we don't need to beat it with a dead horse. But lots of weird shit going on. I don't know if it was real or a false flag, but like I feel like it's almost 50-50 at this point. There's a lot of evidence there's a lot of evidence in either direction that like I don't know, man. It's just one of these things where you can't trust anything that you see anymore. It's all fake and gay.
Yep.
What else has been going on? You fucking
not a whole lot. Trying to get through my sobriety classes. I shouldn't have too many left. Yeah.
Still off the booze?
Yep. That'll be a nice re-influx into my monthly finances, not having to pay for that bullshit anymore.
I kind of lost you there for a second. How much longer do you have in the classes?
Oh, should only be a few more weeks. And I was just saying it'll be a nice re-injection into my monthly finances, not having to pay for that shit.
Oh, I bet.
I have to pay
you
every
don't really
week.
realize like how much money you spend on weed and booze until you don't spend it anymore. And you're like, holy shit, I've got some money right now.
Right. Yeah. And I have to pay every week for the class. And then they piss tested me. And then a couple weeks later, I got a bill for the piss test too.
It's such bullshit that like you get an open container and all of a sudden you're not allowed to drink anymore. And like we kind of went over this on the podcast that didn't get fucking recorded. But like, dude, how stupid is it that like you're allowed to drink and drive? Like you're allowed to have a drink and then drive, but you can't drink and drive. Like as long as you're under the legal limit, I don't see what the fucking problem is. Like a Keystone Light is barely even a drink. Like how many fucking Coors Lights do you have to drink in order to get fucking hammered at this point? Like with your body weight and your tolerance, like you've got to drink a 12 pack to get hammered enough to where you can't drive on fucking Coors Lights. Like why can't I have a Coors Light on my way home? It's fucking stupid.
Dude, Montana, I don't know how long it's been. It might be like 20-ish years now, but Montana was one of the last states that you could have an open container and drive as long as you weren't under the legal limit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't fucking get it.
Yeah. Well, that's like
laws.
the cop came up to my window and first thing was like, "Is there a reason you're not wearing your seatbelt?" And I had to bite my tongue because I was gonna say, "Well, officer, I'm a motorcycle mechanic and I spend more time on a motorcycle that one doesn't have a seatbelt and two, this state does not have a helmet law. So next question, please."
Yeah. And dude, like in Idaho, and I'm sure this is the same way in Montana, you're allowed to ride in the back of the pickup if you're a kid. Like you're allowed to ride, like a child is allowed to ride in the bed of a pickup without a seatbelt on. So why the fuck do I have to run my seatbelt if I'm sitting in the front seat? Like I'm in far more danger no matter what type of accident it is if I'm riding in the bed of a pickup. So like, dude,
and I got a seatbelt ticket too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucking so stupid, man. Like, and cops are just fucking faggots. So they don't ever look at like logic in situations like that where you could say that to them. Well, it's the law and I enforce the law. It's like, well, you're also a fucking tyrant because this is America and I should be able to decide whether I wear a seatbelt or not. Like, fuck you, you know?
Justice is blind, my ass. Justice is a freaking
dude, me and my buddies
slut.
went to a concert a couple years ago. And like after the concert, like my buddies had some friends from out of town there. And like, they're just all in on like getting an Uber. And it's like, dude, there's 6 of us. You're not going to be able to find us a fucking Uber. Like we're at a fucking concert. Like there's 500 people trying to get an Uber right now. Like you're not going to get an Uber. And one of our buddies had a pickup, but they didn't have enough room inside of the truck to like take everybody. So I'm like, all right, let's just pile into the back of the truck. It's fucking like Aaron bitch that I didn't know that was friends with my friends was just freaking out like over us getting in the back of the truck. That's illegal. We can't do it. And I'm like, nope, it's perfectly fucking legal in this state. And I'm not going to sit here and wait for your fucking Uber because my car was at their hotel room. I'm like, I'm not going to walk. I'm not going to wait for your fucking Uber. I'm getting in the back of this truck. Anybody else who doesn't want to sit here all night, let's get in the back of the truck and go right fucking now. So of course, like everybody, like my buddies and like everybody from Idaho piled in, and she's like standing on the grass, like having a fucking meltdown. That's unsafe, and you guys are gonna die, and blah blah blah. I'm like, you really think we're gonna get in an accident in a mile? Like we were like a mile away from the hotel room, you know, and it was just so fucking annoying. And this chick was so fucking mad at me for like telling everybody to get in the back. I'm like, we've been waiting here for a half an hour. We're not getting an Uber. Like it's not going to happen. Like just get in the back of the truck and shut up and we'll get back to your hotel room and call it a night. And like after that, I didn't even go back into the hotel room. I'm like, this bitch doesn't want me in her hotel room anyway. So like, I'm out of here. Yeah, you know. Fucking people. It's a real joke. I don't know. I don't really have anything else on the notes tonight. We can, I'm sure there's something else I could fucking bring up, but I didn't really have time to take any notes tonight. So I'm like running low on topics for the evening. I know you haven't really been paying attention to the news all that much because you have a life and, you know, you don't pay attention to everything that's going on in the government. I did see today that James Comey got indicted and is facing 20 to 40 years in prison, which I think is fairly interesting. Trump recently fired his AG, Pam Bondi, who was just a fucking retard. But, you know, he brought in this new AG, and I would imagine the kind of thinking behind it was like, okay, we're getting a lot of shit from MAGA for not doing any of the things that I campaigned on. So what we're going to do is fire the AG, blame it all on her, bring in a new AG. He's going to follow my directives and start doing some investigations and arrest some people because I'm down in the polls. We're going to lose the midterms and we have to do something at this point, you know? And I think it's crazy that like it took over a year to go after these fucking Russiagate hoaxers that, belong in prison for the rest of their fucking lives. But, here we are a year later, they're finally doing something. So that's at least a fucking plus. I don't really know what's going to happen in 2028 at this point. Like, I feel like, unfortunately, we're kind of primed for a Governor Newsom presidency, but like at
Ugh.
the same time, like Newsom is almost like, talk about substitutes for bikes earlier. Like, Newsom is almost a complete substitute for Hillary Clinton. People fucking hate that guy. So like, hopefully, the Trump administration is able to do enough to like keep this fucking faggot out of the White
Dude,
House, but I'm not really
I hope
convinced at
so,
this
man.
point. Like, I feel like when it comes down to the 2028 election, you've got two main candidates that are like going to be vying for the job. I think it's going to be Marco Rubio and JD Vance. And unfortunately, like, out of those two, like, JD Vance is clearly better. But I'm
Yeah.
not convinced that like Trump is going to throw his weight behind JD Vance, because JD Vance's only like real avenue to winning the America First vote is to kind of throw Trump under the bus for all the things that he hasn't done. The war, Epstein, arresting all the criminals within the deep state. Like, he hasn't done any of that shit. Like, Comey is kind of the first, domino to fall in that. And who knows if like anything will actually happen because of it. Like, I think they indicted somebody a couple months ago, but like the prosecutor did a bad job and the case got thrown out because of some procedural aspects. So like, it's kind of a fucking weird situation, because like Trump's donors are, his main donor is Miriam Adelson, who is like Israel first. And you've got a decent portion of like Trump's voters who have completely split on Israel and are like, fuck these people. We're not going to war for them anymore. We're not paying their fucking bills for their, socialist welfare state anymore. Like, we want out on that bullshit. And like, maybe Vance can kind of like go down that route. I don't think he would actually do it, but I do think that he would like kind of talk to these people off air and be like, "Hey, look, I'm going to say some shit on the campaign, but like, don't worry, you're getting your check still." You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
I think like Rubio's going to get all of the AIPAC money and the Miriam Adelson money, and he's kind of going to be Trump's guy. Trump will probably endorse him. So he'll get the diehard Dick Ryder vote, like, because a lot of these people are going to just vote for whoever Trump tells them to. They're not going to think about it. They're not really going to do anything. They're like, as long as he says it, they'll do it. But like, you've got a lot of America First people are going to be like, no, this guy's a scumbag, and we're not fucking voting for him just because, Gavin Newsom's worse. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a real fucking mess come 2028. But it would be nice if It would be nice if Thomas Massey ran. But like, Thomas Massey has way too many enemies in Washington to like actually win.
But have you talked much on any other podcasts about the whole fucking Iran war shit? And
yeah, oh yeah,
whole
it's been
oil-
covered. It's a fucking nightmare. Like, I don't know how much you've been following it, but it's a fucking nightmare. It seems like I don't understand this like Israel first bullshit, to where like, we destroyed their nuclear capabilities, but now they're 2 weeks away from a nuke again. So like, did we destroy it? Did we not destroy it? I was talking to somebody in my family recently who was like, well, they're not even fighting back. So like, this war's not going to go on forever. Like, what do you mean they're not fighting back? Like, they're bombing Israel. They're bombing other places in the Middle East. Just because they're not bombing the United States doesn't mean they're not fighting back. And like, even if they weren't fighting back, why the fuck are we bombing them? Why are we killing an entire school full of like young girls? Like, it just, none of it makes any sense. Like, I, I just, I don't see, like, I don't understand why Trump went all in on this. He campaigned against new wars, campaigned against like fighting in the Middle East. He's talked about like not how disastrous these wars in the Middle East have been forever. And, he's kind of the most socialist president we've ever had in a lot of ways. Like his spending is higher than any president in history. He wants like a $2 trillion military budget in this next fiscal year. He's talking about buying Spirit Airlines and Frontier Airlines, which are like airlines that shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Like if you want to stop like letting black people fly and make, you got all these fucking videos of like black people freaking out at the airport. Just let those companies go out of business. They're not going to fly anymore. Here's a controversial question for you. This is something I discussed off the air. This could get us in some trouble, so this will be fun. This is something I discussed off the air with Dan recently. If you were president of the United States, or God of the United States, Emperor of the United States, and I'll phrase this in a way that is complimentary rather than a little bit out of left field. If you were the Emperor of the United States and you had, I'm going to say had, not got, had to deport every person of a single race in this country, which race would it be?
Wow. God damn it.
You want me to give you my answer first?
Yeah.
Blacks all the way. We're definitely getting rid of the blacks. Like, Indians are smelly and nasty, disgusting people who make food with their feet. But like, there are some smart Indians out there that kind of like add to the economy and make good businesses, like that. I know I'm saying there's not some smart blacks out there, but like essentially Mexicans, like I don't mind Mexicans all that much. Like, they have good family values. They work hard. Like, a lot of them don't belong here, but the ones that kind of have come in legally and like, they're hardworking, and that's a good aspect. Blacks, on the other hand, they don't father their own children. They don't, work hard for the most part. They're fucking like, most of our crime come from blacks. It's they're kind of a nightmare. I was telling my buddy off air, I was like, why couldn't plantation owners have just hired white people? They would have saved their ancestors a lot of problems.
Oh, fuck. Wow.
Yeah. That's a touchy subject for a podcast, is it not? But
yeah,
you got to get rid of all of one. Which one's it going to be?
Fuck, man. I yeah. I don't know. Russians? Does that count?
Russians? Nope, that's not a race. Those are white people. That is not a race.
That'd be
all
good.
If you don't want to answer, you don't have to. That was my fun question for my buddy Reese. He actually agreed. My buddy actually agreed. He was like, "Yeah, that sounds like the best plan to me." If you watched a lot of body cam video on YouTube like I do, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Like police body cam.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of body cam out there, and most of the worst ones come from a specific demographic of the country, and I think you know which demographic I'm talking about.
Oh boy.
Well, I don't think we're gonna get an answer out of him, so why don't we just call it right there? We're at 58 minutes, so. I have no problem airing out my racism online, but everybody. I don't have to force anybody else to do it. So let's call it there. I have no idea if you're hearing the music right now. If you are, great. If you're not, well, this is the end of the podcast, and we'll do this again at some point in the future. I would like to add that I have been drinking a little bit tonight, so maybe I shouldn't have brought that up on the podcast, but it's done and over with now.
Oh,
all right, let's call it.